Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Starside Chat, which is our official podcast about video games that I do with my friend Zach. My name is Aaron, and I'm with Zach. How's it going, Zach?
Hi, yes, I'm here too. I have a question for you to lead into something, or lead into our news, I guess.
Very excited about this.
What is a franchise that would make the next great AR game? So like Pokemon Go, but like what franchise could be adapted for that?
Now, are we saying with current AR technology, like it still has to be on a phone, or you're talking about an ideal world where you have glasses?
Either, I guess. That's interesting because glasses is the future eventually. One of these days they'll come up with that, but like
glasses, I think there's a lot that could be done with Pokemon Go, which originally was an AR game, but now no one uses the AR features.
Yeah.
If when glasses start to become a thing, if you can put those on, load into a Pokemon Go mode, and just be like walking around a mall and see a Pokemon, that's next level stuff. And I would even incorporate maybe Pokemon Snap, where you could like take pictures of these Pokemon somehow. Maybe your phone is the camera. Anyway, a new franchise that I would like
what's
to
a franchise that, while you're thinking about that, the news I had in mind was, of course, Niantic announced that they are partnering with Nintendo. And so like the first game that they've announced that they're working on is a new Pikmin AR game.
Oh, yes. I did see this.
So in my mind, two franchises that I can think of just sort of off the top of my head that are relevant recently is Monster Hunter, because Monster Hunter Rise also came out. That is the kind of thing where like the whole point of the game is you go out on these hunts, and so you're literally going out of like a hub area to go search for these big crazy monsters, and there's like a whole long list of like different monsters that exist in this franchise. So I feel like that would kind of lend itself to like Niantic's, get out and walk around your town or city and like find stuff. I feel like that would lend itself pretty well to that style of game. And the other one is the Persona franchise, because I've been playing Persona 5 Strikers, and basically in those games you go into this like metaverse and you basically have what amounts to Pokemon. And they have different like elemental attacks that they can do and stuff like that. So I mean, those would be sort of the two that would maybe make the most sense in my mind as franchises that you could adapt to like the Pokemon Go style of game. And now that Niantic is like, I guess officially partnered with Nintendo, it's possible that either one of those franchises could happen. Not that Nintendo owns Atlas, the maker of Persona, but Monster Hunter is exclusive to Nintendo platform. So you would think that maybe they could pull something off there.
And I don't know what I would want. Like, I thought that my ideal was that Minecraft Earth, that is now defunct because it was also the pandemic happened. But in general, like the promise of that was you would build structures and leave them in the world, and somehow they would be like tagged in the world, and someone would come upon, like if you go to a park, you could build your own little thing, you could walk around inside it and then leave it there, and then someone else that went to that park would see that. Like a persistent virtual world is what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But that ended up not really happening. I don't know. Something that gamifies real life is very interesting to me. Like in the first or second, I forget which one of the Watch Dogs games it was, but one of them had those like AR challenges where you could put on glasses and like basically shoot Space Invaders, which isn't that also becoming an AR thing?
Oh yeah, that is becoming a thing.
That would be crazy. If that was like you put on glasses, you walk outside to a park and you see giant Space Invaders coming down from the sky, that would be insane. If you could like put on those glasses, look off on the horizon and see that like a park that's like 2 miles away has a giant thing hovering above it. That's very interesting to me.
And yeah, you have to like group up with a bunch of people in your community to like work together to take it down. That would be cool.
That would be super cool. We're not there yet. We are on the precipice. Like, people are getting ready to be pushing out like beta versions of AR glasses, but I don't think we're going to see anything consumer for a couple of years, unfortunately.
Yeah.
When we do, though, that's going to be a game changer for sure.
Yeah, it'll completely revolutionize Pokemon Go for sure. Well, actually, how would that work? Because if it's tied to glasses, then like how are you controlling things? You know what I mean? Like that is like a portal to be able to see stuff, but there's not like an input method that way unless you're also using your phone.
I've watched a lot of videos about this. Because like whenever there's like an Oculus Connect, they have like big developer things about like what does the future of VR look like, and basically what it looks like is like common gestures throughout all apps. Basically, like left clicking and right clicking need to be like, we all know what a left click and a right click is on a mouse, but we need to know what the analog for that is in a hand gesture, basically.
Right.
So, you know, people talk about like the smart pinch or like, you know, expanding with your hand. Basically what it's going to be is like a whole new version of sign language for, you know, interacting with things that aren't there is what I think it is. As long as your hands are in view of what you can see, the glasses will interpret those hand motions as, you know, different actions. But very exciting stuff. And I mean, also, I mean, we talk a lot about like hand tracking and whatnot, but it always is going to feel great to have a controller. So I could see, especially, I mean, this isn't a great, I was going to suggest like, oh yeah, you'll just have like a fake gun that you walk around with and it'll like shoot fake things. But if you're just like walking around a park waving a fake gun around, that's not going to be a great thing for society.
I mean, if you had like a keychain sized like little controller that had like a button on it that was also like had sort of like a Joy-Con that had like some accelerometers in it or whatever that could sense motion.
This is a perfect use case for a lightsaber, which can just like all it is a handle basically, but when you hold it up, the blade is, you know, artificially created and only you can see it.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. But
like Pokemon Go has like the little, what is that called? It's like a Go something. Or
oh yeah, that little keychain thing.
Yeah, that like connects via Bluetooth and then you just hit a button to like do an auto catch or whatever. Yeah. Or auto spin. Like
and it like tracks your steps or whatever.
Yeah. Something like that, I feel like, would be a decent solution to that problem.
It's going to be a great time when that occurs, but unfortunately, it's a little bit in the future.
All right, well, we can move into the news. We got a ton of stuff.
Yes. Xbox is finally putting Bethesda games on Game Pass. This is a little dated, but it is something that is happening. And they have also put out more like cryptic messages about like what the future of Bethesda games is going to be. Because everybody wants to know if like the next Elder Scrolls game and if Starfield is going to be like exclusive to PC and Xbox. Like, is it going to come to... Skyrim is on everything. It's on Switch. It's basically on phones at this point. But like, are we going to see an Elder Scrolls game that is only on Xbox and PC? People are kind of freaked out about it.
Yeah, it does concern me, but I mean, they always come to PC as well. So I guess as long as you have a gaming PC, you're okay. Mm-hmm. The problem I have with it, like, it's cool that the stuff is coming to Game Pass, but like PC Game Pass versus console Game Pass is not like, there's differences in like the actual lineup that they have available. So that's kind of a little bit of a bummer. I think a good amount of the stuff did come to the PC version of Game Pass, but it's cool that like it just makes that service like substantially more interesting.
Oh yeah.
Just to have, I mean, Bethesda, I mean, they've got so many great franchises that like, I don't know. It is a big selling point to be sure. And supposedly there's going to be some form of E3 that happens this summer. And Bethesda's supposed to be heavily involved in whatever, Microsoft's got going on. It's weird because they both had separate conferences in the past. I don't know if they're going to, like, Microsoft is still going to have, like, a separate Bethesda one, or if they're just going to fold that all into one giant Microsoft press conference.
Microsoft knows how to make a press conference. Their one, I guess last year, I don't think they had some sort of thing last year, but like that one that we watched where it started out with Halo Infinite and then it ended with Cyberpunk was like a really great press conference. And I could see them, they could basically do that again with like, here's Halo Infinite again, but it's good this time. And also, like, here is the like next gen version of Cyberpunk that is super fixed and everything.
Which
also here's Starfield.
Well, but that makes me wonder because Bethesda, one of the things I like about their press conferences, like when they have like a new game to unveil, they really deep dive it because they have like a full press conference, and they obviously don't have the number of games they're trying to show off as like Sony or Microsoft. So they have the time to like, here's everything new in the next Fallout game. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And that's like, that really builds the hype around those games. And like, if they're going to do that for Starfield, that would be awesome. If they just like come out with like, Todd Howard walks out on stage and is like, here's Starfield, and this is what the game is. This is how everything works. This is what you do.
I think that will happen. They know what they have with Todd Howard. Like, they know he's a showman, and he is like, he's known for these like off the cuff, like, look at my leather jacket. And also, here's this game.
Check out my hair and leather jacket. Also, games. But yeah, if he like, will they have time for it all? Do they have to scale back on the presentation?
Well, let's talk about this. I mean, would you watch a 3.5 hour Microsoft presentation? Because I would.
Yeah. I guess that's true. If they're going for a virtual press conference as opposed to like an E3, like we're live on stage type of a thing, maybe they can just be like, all right, we're going to go all out and this is going to be 3 hours long.
Where do you stand on Starfield right now as far as like your expectations and how excited you are for it?
I mean, obviously I'm excited about it. Even if it's sort of Elder Scrolls but in space, like that sounds very cool to me. Like, I like Bethesda's RPGs, and the idea of having one set in space is cool. The one thing that has me a little bit like cautiously optimistic as opposed to just like super excited about it is like the engine and sort of the state of it, and how is it going to perform, especially on like new consoles, I guess. Let
me ask you some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Will this game have multiple planets that you can go to?
Yes.
Do you think you have your own ship that you can customize?
Yes.
Do you think you fly this ship, or do you think it's more of a Mass Effect type thing where you basically just pick locations?
More of a Mass Effect thing.
Interesting.
I mean, I don't know the answers to any of these questions.
No, this is just like what what you think.
What I assume to be the case.
Do you think we saw a little bit of this in Skyrim and kind of in Fallout 4 where you can recruit people. I never did that because I was always going stealth and I didn't want people just like walking around. But do you think you can recruit people in this game?
Yes. I assume that there, if not like the normal sort of companion system that they've had in like Fallout and Elder Scrolls, if not that, then some sort of like Mass Effect situation where you have a group of people.
Okay, I have one final question for you.
Okay.
If you see a building and you walk up to it and you open the door to it, will you get a loading screen and load into
absolutely.
that? You think so?
Oh yeah. There's no, like, for sure that's sort of part and parcel with the whole Bethesda experience.
That's such a bummer.
The question is, will it be just art that you're looking at, or will there be an object that you can spin around?
It's going to be an object you spin around. 100%. But we're talking about next gen where there's no load time.
Oh, that's true. So, well, then no object has been around, but there will be like some sort of art screen, and it'll just like the new, more powerful consoles will just make it so that the loading screens are not as painful.
You think they're going to announce it for PS4 also?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. It probably will be one of those that's like multi-generation, but
I don't know. We don't know when it's coming out. Although speculation is right now that it might come out this year.
Yeah, there was a rumor that Starfield was going to come out in 2021. I believe it was Venture Beat reporter Jeff Grubb, who's been like, he's got a good track record as far as like leaks go. Like he was the guy that leaked that Mass Effect Legendary Edition was happening. And he was like on that for like a year before it was, like more than a year before that was actually launched or announced. So, I mean, he has been accurate in the past. So, and the thing he said was that it was targeting a late 2021 release. So
if that is the case, then you're right. It is 100% going to be cross-generational. There's no way if it comes out this year, they 100% are targeting current gen as well as next gen.
Yeah. Because of when they would have started working on it, you would assume that would be the case.
I don't know, man. Like that's such a loaded question because we get all like, it's happened like 3 or 4 times where we're like Jason Schreier has come out with like, hey, that game that was supposedly in development for like 8 years was actually only in development for like the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Like Anthem and Cyberpunk, like all these elongated production times just seem like a bunch of stops and starts. So who knows when they actually started working on Starfield? Like maybe they were just like, oh, Fallout 76 is not doing great. Let's all just do that for a while.
Well, I've also heard from like multiple people that like having it released this year fits with like the usual like Bethesda release cycle where they work on something for about 4 years and then and I think they were working on this since Fallout 4 released. And I think that would have been about 4 years. When did Fallout 4 come out? I forget. I might be wrong.
I feel like that came out a long time ago.
It does feel...
Because I definitely played that.
It does feel forever.
And dropped it.
Yeah.
Man, I don't...
Oh, it came out in 2015, so it's longer than that.
Yeah. That was a while ago.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know exactly when, but... They... Like you said, when they say they've been working on it for this long, like... That could just mean that they were in the idea phase,
Yeah.
Like,
or they get some % done with it, and then somebody's like, "No, actually, everybody should be flying. Let's redesign this."
Yeah, I assume that happens with all games at some point, where they're like, the idea phase is like we're writing stuff down on a whiteboard and like taking notes and just like thinking about what it could be, and then like 2 years later, when they actually start to like, work on the game itself, they're like, oh, we ran into problems with this idea. We're like not doing that or something. Or maybe like, a different director came along and like had a different vision for something and sort of took something in a different direction. I feel like that is just sort of how it works and it's pretty common. But I mean, I don't know what Starfield is at this point. So.
All we've seen from it, we've seen one piece of footage like 3 E3s ago or something, where it was a very zoomed out shot of what I assume is a spaceship or a space station orbiting some planet, and then I think it like went into hyperspace or something. No dialogue, no anything. I don't think there was any dialogue to that. I think it was just music.
Yeah. Yeah, that teaser was short, and it. So a good question is also like, how fantasy, like space fantasy, is this going to be, or is this more hard sci-fi where it's like, a little bit more The Expanse instead of Star Wars? You know what I mean?
What do you think you would prefer?
It's a good question. I guess it depends on how they handle the story, but I feel like Star Wars is more up Bethesda's sleeve than The Expanse because their RPG elements would almost dictate that it has to be more space fantasy.
I don't know. I am hungry for more information about Starfield, and I think that we probably will not receive it until around E3, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think at E3 this year, it's going to be like a big Starfield thing.
Whatever E3 is.
Yeah.
I think it won't. It's a bummer that Bethesda's not going to have their own press conference, but I think they're just going to jam everything that would have been in that into like an hour-long segment of a 4-hour Snyder Cut Microsoft press conference.
I do hope that happens, yeah.
That would be great, but I guess we'll see.
Speaking of space RPGs, The Outer Worlds, I guess I should let you say what you were going to say before we move on.
I was just going to do a jab at Sony, and then Sony releases like a 1-hour press conference where everybody's in a barn and some guy plays a banjo for 5 minutes.
But they make everybody get up and leave and go to a different place for like 5 minutes, and then they get everybody back up again and move them back again.
That's the bookend. That's their last E3 press conference, and they're like, all right, we nailed it, so no more, I guess. Like, that's what they ended on, is just like the worst thing.
It was really weird. I don't know why they chose to do that. They just made it so much more complicated than it needed to be.
That guy played that flute. I think there were 2 musical interludes, I think. There was the flute guy for Ghost of Tsushima, and then I think there was a full like banjo thing happening for Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, there was some sort of musical performance for Last of Us because they were in the church, and that is an actual location in the game for Last of Us, and then they made everybody get up and leave, and then they like redid the entire like setting to make it look like Ghost of Tsushima or whatever.
Very dumb.
It was very heavily
anyway
overdone.
The Outer Worlds.
Yeah, so I big part of me wonders how different Starfield's going to feel from The Outer Worlds, because The Outer Worlds was made by the makers of Fallout New Vegas. And so they have some like similar styles. But I loved The Outer Worlds. There's a Murder on Eridanos, I think is how it's said. But there's a new DLC out for that. It's the last DLC they're doing. I want to say I own both of these DLCs. I just gotta like actually go back in and play. I actually started another playthrough of Outer Worlds last year at one point because I wanted to play the new DLC, Peril on something, Gorgon. I don't know. It's a weird name that I don't remember exactly, but I was like, I want to play this, but it's not one of those things where you can just like hop back into your playthrough and just like pick up where you were at. Like it happens. It's like just additional quests along like the main storyline. So I was like, whatever, I'm just going to do a new playthrough so I don't have to worry about like, where was I? Let me try to figure out an old save. So I just did a new playthrough and I fell off of it before I got to a point where I could start the DLC. So if I jump back in there, I've got 2 DLCs now to play, but I've been too busy with other things to actually get to it. But at some point, I do want to play it. I highly recommend The Outer Worlds. It's a very good game. And this most recent one is sort of a murder mystery type of thing that I've heard is very good.
Yeah, I always meant to pick it up because I love Fallout New Vegas, but I just like never had the time. And then it was going to come out on, I think it came out on Switch, and I was like, maybe I should play it on Switch. And I realized that probably that was not the way to play it. I probably should play it on my computer. And I just never downloaded it.
Yeah, it did come to Switch. I heard there was some performance issues.
Yeah.
For me,
that's to be expected.
For me, the main thing is just like, I don't want to control a first-person shooter with the Joy-Cons.
Yeah.
So, but I played it on PC and I really enjoyed it. What do we got next? Oh yeah, so you were briefly talking about CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk and maybe like what they might show off if they've got any like DLC or anything like that, or just like some major bug fixes to show off at E3. I don't know if we'll see any of that, but they did announce patch 1.2, and it does fix some stuff that bothered me during my playthrough. Like there's an issue where, and it wasn't really a bug, it was just like designed that way, where if you committed a crime, which was fairly easy to do accidentally, if you were like getting into a shootout with some like thugs in the street, like you might accidentally shoot some random civilian that just happened to be too close by. And when you did that, like a police officer would just immediately appear behind you. So they fixed that and made it so that if you do commit a crime, there's like they'll send a drone to come like sort of spot things out and figure out what's going on, and it'll take a little bit of time for the police to actually show up. So that's a nice change that also makes sense like within the world. So that's a good change.
I agree.
They also made some changes to the driving to make steering easier, especially on PC. It was kind of one of those situations where like there's not really levels of pressing in a key. So like it was either 100% you're turning or 100% you're not turning. And so driving was not fun on mouse and keyboard. It was not as bad when I played on Stadia with a controller, but on PC it was real rough. So they have made it so that you can go into the settings and dial down the sensitivity, I think, to make it so that steering should be better. So that's good. And then they also made it so that you can turn off dodging in the settings, which I never did on purpose. It was always an accident. I was just trying to move, and it would think I was double tapping the movement keys. And so I would just randomly dodge. And so that got on my nerves as well. So those are three fairly big things that irritated me during my playthrough, but like not enough to make me want to quit playing. They were just sort of little nuisances. So quality of life changes, good stuff. And if I hadn't already finished the game, I would be excited about these, but I don't know. Where are you at with that? Are you thinking about jumping back in at all?
Yeah, I keep meaning to. I had for a long time I was trying to grind out and get 20 intelligence so that I could start just doing crazy hacking stuff. And I attained that during a mission, and then I finished that mission and I was like, all right, I have a bunch more stuff I want to do. And then I just got busy. So I'm at a point where I just got to level 20 intelligence, but I haven't really played with it yet. And so I will jump back in eventually, but I don't know. This patch is great, and maybe it will revitalize my interest and push me back in. But for now, who knows? Maybe I'll play it this weekend. I don't know.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the story. I am curious on how things end up for you if you make different decisions along the way.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been trying to be a good guy, but I definitely have failed some missions, and I have not cared enough to like reload a save and try to do them better.
I feel like it almost depends more on how you build your relationship with Johnny than whether you make good decisions or are successful in like side missions. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So because I don't know what the threshold is, but I know you can like hit the pause menu and check there's like a certain percentage or whatever of what you've done with Johnny, I think.
Yeah.
And I want to say it's like 60 or 70%. Like if you're there, then you can get like you have some different options towards the end, I think. But I don't know the extent of that. And it makes me curious to like actually go back in and maybe like try to run through that final mission again and see if things turn out differently. Also, speaking of updates, Fallout 76 unveiled updates for the rest of this year, which is cool. They're still doing stuff with that game. I actually jumped back in like a week or two ago just for like one night just to play a little bit. I keep meaning to put more time into it. It's one of those games that's kind of like a little bit like Destiny for me, where I just like get in the mood for it, and I will jump in for like a week or two, and I'll just play a whole bunch, and then I'll just sort of fall off of it again. And every time I jump back in, like there's a bunch of new stuff. Like, of course, recently, I guess it's not that recent, but they added NPCs, of course, and there's been like a whole bunch of DLC. I know they've got like a whole bunch of Brotherhood of Steel stuff that has been added, and they're still like adding more stuff to go along with that. But like the other week I jumped in, and of course they have like their versions of when you go on patrol in Destiny, there are those like live events that happen.
Oh yeah.
So they have like versions of those types of thing happening all the time. And so I jumped into one of those, and there was a whole bunch of people, and it was like this parade. Like if anybody that's played a lot of Fallout 76, this is like super old news, but like it was fun to just like, I don't know, you're sort of protecting this like marching band of like robots going from one town to another or whatever, and there's like a bunch of things that pop up and try to come attack them, and so you just have to shoot them. And there was like a bunch of people running around doing that, and it was fun to just like see a bunch of different people in the game, because you realize fairly quickly that the people that are into the game are super into the game, because I'm like level 30 something, and these people were like 400, 500.
Whoa.
Like they never stopped playing the game apparently. So
is there a cap? Is there a level cap?
There is a cap in terms of like what you can do with your perks and like your how much unlocks you can get, but there's not really a level cap, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's interesting. I also one of the reasons it made me want to jump back into it is I was listening to the MinMax show not that long ago, and Leo Vader on that show was talking about how he's been playing it a bunch lately, and he's been really into it. And I was like, yeah, I like that game too. I should get back into it, but I've had too much other stuff going on. So
yeah,
it's a weird thing. It's like it's not a great game, but when you get into it, there is like more to it than you think there's going to be. And if you're in the right headspace for it, it's a lot of fun.
I mean, I get that. I am a big proponent of weird, persistent worlds that you can visit with friends, and I could definitely see having some fun just like messing around in this universe. Yeah,
and every now and then I'll tune in to like, I'll just like check Twitch and see if any like, I'll just go to like the Fallout 76 directory and see what's going on. Like I don't actually follow any of the streamers from that, but I just like want to see what's happening every once in a while. And like their version of like raids is of course when people drop that nuke or whatever, and then the big crazy beast thing comes out, and there's always a ton of people there, and they're like level 1000 or something. It's just like, wow, this is insane. But also you have perks, but you can also, when you get irradiated, you get these weird like things that happen to you, and one of them is I think called marsupial, where you can jump super high.
I didn't know that.
So there's other ones too that just are really, really interesting, that makes me want to like figure out the path of how to make those work. I know you have to use a perk that like locks in your modifications from being irradiated, and you have to lock those in so that when you use Radaway or whatever to get rid of your rads, you don't also lose your perks from being irradiated. But yeah, you can do some like really crazy silly stuff with all of that makes building your character that much more interesting. But let's move on to something else. Let's talk about Ghost of Tsushima and the fact that it's going to have a movie adaptation by the director of John Wick.
Now, this was a game that was already very cinematic. Like, you could basically play it as a movie, like black and white and whatnot, like as an old samurai movie. Do you think this would make for a good movie adaptation, the story of the game?
Yeah, I mean, I can see that making a good movie, but also, like, it's sort of weird to acknowledge Ghost of Tsushima was like a cinematic thing that was like heavily inspired by movies. Like old samurai movies, and now there's going to be a movie based on this game that's based on these movies, you know. It's a little like, what is that? There's like a line in The Office where Michael Scott's like driving and he's like, do you mind if I put on my audiobook? And he's like, it's the novelization of the movie based on the book by something. It's like some like really, I don't know, too many layers or whatever. But
I own the novelization of the movie Hackers.
Do you?
It's not great. It's not a great adaptation. I think it could have used a once over by an editor, because there are a couple scenes in it where characters pop up that aren't in those scenes. I think they just wrote the wrong name.
I didn't know they did a novelization for that movie.
Oh yeah, it's a good thing to have on the shelf, but I mean, the movie is better, I think.
Well, I don't think that this Ghost of Tsushima movie is going to happen anytime soon, because I feel like there's another John Wick movie in the works, so it's going to have to be after that. Who knows whether something will fall through.
Wait, I thought the guy who directed John Wick isn't directing the next John Wick.
Oh, is he not? I thought it...
No, I think they took it away from him.
Oh, well, then maybe this will happen sooner than I thought.
Possible. I will watch this. I need to get on that game.
Yeah.
I just haven't had a good time to dive in for whatever. I've been so busy these last couple months, but that is one that I really did want to play.
It was my number one game from last year. I really enjoyed it. I liked the combat. I thought it was a gorgeous setting, and the story was pretty good too. So I can see it making a good movie. I feel like it might lose something in translation. Just, I don't know. I mean, all games to an extent lose something in translation, but like that, the Mortal Kombat the movie for that looks like they've done a pretty good job, at least translating some of that. But like, I don't know. I'm curious.
What if what are they going to do, like the Hollywood thing where it's like set in some Midwestern town and it's like a bunch of teens?
What?
For Ghost of Tsushima? What if it's like Ghosts of Arkansas?
I hope they don't do that.
I don't think they will, because I think they're finally like casting people as their races. But I feel like if this was made in the early 2000s, they would have just like adapted it to be like, yeah, this is going to be in like North Dakota.
Oh, I'm thinking specifically now that you're mentioning this of the Death Note.
Yes.
Was that a movie or a TV show that they did?
I think it was like a Netflix. I don't know.
It wasn't. It
might have been a movie.
I think it was a Netflix movie, and it was set in like Seattle or something like that.
Awful.
It was.
And that was like when they were one of the many times they have said like, oh yeah, we're making a live action American Akira movie. It was going to be set in New York, and I was just like, come on, man.
If you're gonna do it right.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I guess it's an adaptation, whatever, but like, still, come on.
Yeah.
So also a thing we should mention. The internet is referring to this as the day Mario dies, but it's March 31st. You can no longer get Super Mario 3D All-Stars. That's also true. There's this like Fire Emblem game that they have that's like supposed to be, I think it was never released in the US, and it was like one of the original Fire Emblem games, and it's only like $5, but like those are going away on March 31st.
I have a hot take about this.
Okay.
I am excited for this day.
Really?
Because it means the year of the Mario anniversary is concluding, and they can begin the year of the Zelda anniversary.
Oh, that's interesting.
So now that like right now everything on Switch is still like Mario stuff. Like if you go to the Nintendo store, it's like a little cat Mario that runs across as it's loading and whatnot. Like that's all great, but this is going to be the canonical end to the Mario, like what is it, 25th anniversary,
35th, yeah.
And now they can start with like Zelda stuff, which I'm hoping means we're going to get a direct pretty soon that's going to be about Breath of the Wild, which would be great for me. But who knows? I mean, with COVID and everything, maybe they're going to wait until the summer to do that.
Do you think they'll do like a Zelda 3D All-Stars and bring back like a bunch of old games and then have them set on like a strict timetable where you have to buy them and then they'll go away?
So, I mean, so the only thing they've done so far is make that what's the sky one, Skyward Sword, is coming out, arguably the worst one, and they were like, hey, check this out, this is happening at some point. Everybody wanted like an N64 remaster type thing where it's like, you know, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, maybe Wind Waker also. If they did that, that would make so much money, and they're not doing it for some reason. And I feel like maybe they're waiting for this 35th anniversary to do that. I think they very much could do that, and I would be pro that. I don't know like what's happening with like the pandemic and whatnot. If they had plans that are not happening anymore, if they're scaling them back, or what's going on.
This could be just one of those things that they like over the summer when they do E3 or whatever, virtual E3, they just do this huge Zelda Direct.
I would love that.
And
I hope that happens.
I mean, I hope it does too. But with them having already announced Skyward Sword, part of me is like, they're probably not going to also unveil like another remaster / remake at this point. At least not this year, but so I feel like if they do a Zelda E3 presentation of some sort, it'll be more geared towards Breath of the Wild 2, which I mean, I would love that too, but
yeah, that would be great.
Part of me still wishes they had some different like remakes or remasters to announce that were not Skyward
I'm sure it will
Sword.
be. I think this summer, when they talk about Breath of the Wild 2, they will also talk about that new Switch Pro that is like constantly being rumored. There was like a new thing this week or last week about this new NVIDIA chip that it's going to use or something.
Oh, yeah. And that, I think the rumor was that it was going to launch end of 2021, so like around the holidays.
That would be great. I would love for Breath of the Wild 2, or whatever it's called, Breath of the Wild subheading whatever, to be released this year with a new Switch Pro model. That would be something that would be a great cap to 2021.
It would be, but also most likely we wouldn't be able to get one.
True. Yeah, I'm so glad I'm not actively trying to purchase a PlayStation 5 because it seems like it's a real headache.
It has been. I've been off and on trying to get on that train and just be like, because I follow this Twitter thing where they will literally be like, it's now in stock at these places, and like at least 5 times I've gone to. It's always Best Buy that's like, here you go. Like you can actually add this to your cart, and I will do that. And then when you go to check out, it's like, we're not delivering to any store within like 500 miles of you, so you can't actually buy this. It's just like, why? Why can't you just put it on a truck and send it with everything else that you're gonna send to the stores nearby?
It's like IKEA. Like, I don't get why you can't just get stuff from IKEA globally.
Yeah, you should just be able to order it online and have it shipped to you. I don't know why that's a thing.
Yeah, like, what's the difference?
It doesn't make sense. Well, should we get into, I guess it's what we've been playing, but it's also like our feature for this week. We're going to talk about Loop Hero, because
have you been playing Loop Hero?
I have been playing Loop Hero.
Oh my God. How do you like it?
I am really enjoying it. I really like the aesthetic of it. The music's great. And it is a game that basically defies explanation, because it has elements of tower defense. It has elements of like deck builder, elements of an idle game, has elements of sort of like a builder type of game, but it's also none of those things. And like if you try to watch gameplay of it, it's just not going to give you a good sense of like how fun it actually is to play. Because you're almost not even playing it either. You're just sort of like watching it, and then like, but you have to actively watch it too.
Yeah, it's great for, I have like a thing I have to do once a month for my job where I basically just like connect into a bunch of random servers, press like 2 buttons and wait for them to run updates. And this is a great thing to do while I'm doing that, because I can just like not look at it for a second and like do a little bit of work and go back to it. It's like a great podcast game also.
Yeah, it is the perfect podcast game. Or like, I'm more of like a TV show watcher when I game. Like I'll put a TV show, usually something I've already seen before and something that's fairly lighthearted and not necessarily like continuous storytelling. So that like a sitcom is like a perfect thing to put on in the background for when I'm gaming. And I've been rewatching Farscape recently, and Loop Hero has been kind of like the perfect thing to just like keep my hands busy while I'm watching a show. And like you just every once in a while you're like, oh, I gotta upgrade my armor, I gotta upgrade my sword, so let me click and drag this over there, and then like you just let him go on his way. Now
it's great.
I recently unlocked the rogue class. And I gave that a shot. And what I realized fairly early on is that the warrior class has, like, I feel like is more survivable, but doesn't hit as hard. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, because I don't know. So I have all 3 classes right now, unless there's a 4th one I'm not aware of. But the one I've played the least of is the Thief, mainly because it's not as survivable, and also it does that thing where you like pocket all of your items until you complete the loop, so you can't look at all your stuff.
That makes it much harder because you're not upgrading stuff as often.
Yeah, which I'm not super into. But the Necromancer and the Warrior I have a lot of fun with.
How far in did you have to get before you could unlock the Necromancer?
I beat the first boss twice, I think, and then I started doing basically chapter 2, which is harder, and I just ground it a bunch. Like I went back to chapter 1 and just did chapter 1 like 3 or 4 times while I was just doing other stuff, and eventually you get enough to unlock the library, or I forget exactly. Maybe it's like a crypt you unlock that gets you the Necromancer. And then when I got that, I just kept playing, and I have maybe 2/3 of the buildings unlocked, unless there's more that I'm unaware of later on. But it just takes a couple more grindings. Like an important thing is to not always try to beat the boss. Just like get as far as you can, get the boss to start happening, and then just like peace out before you get back and like with all your stuff. And that allows you to, like, all those materials really build up if you do like 2 or 3 adventures or like expeditions, yeah. I'm still, you can finally start to build stuff. Relatively early on.
Like I have not put in as much time as you, but I noticed that, like, of course the big boss coming is directly tied to how much stuff you're building. And so like the first time I got the boss to show up, I got destroyed because he was hitting me for like 200 damage like every time he swung at me, and I was hitting like for like 30 or 40 damage, and I of course did not have a huge health bar to withstand very many hits. And so I was like, man, I didn't even come close to taking him down. So like I'm not sure if I just summoned the boss way too early. And so I tried a thing like the next run or 2 that I had where I would get the boss bar fairly full, and then I would just stop building, and I would just let my warrior go around the loop, and I kept like armoring up and like getting better gear. And then I chickened out anyway. And I was just like, I have a ton of resources that I would hate to lose like 60% of or whatever it is. And so I just like went back and got some upgrades for my village or whatever. But
that's the way to do it.
But yeah, so that was a little trick I learned, that you can be a little bit more strategic about when or even if you bring the boss in. So that was helpful, but I need to get back to it. I have not played in a little while, but I'm really enjoying it. I like watched a trailer for it, and I watched somebody play a little bit on Twitch initially, and I was like, this looks like a capo game, but I'm not sure if this is for me. And then we started talking about it, I think on our last show, and I decided to go in and give it a shot because it was only like $12. And
yeah, it's cheap right now.
And yeah, I like immediately fell in love with it. So I get it. I get the hype behind this one. Like,
I don't know what the developer has said about it, like if they have a roadmap or something, but this game is like one that I feel like is primed for more content.
Oh, yeah.
More classes and more things to do, like more cards, basically. So I'm excited to see like where it ends up like a year from now.
Yeah, like a year or two from now, I feel like this, it could be like, you know how Stardew Valley's like constantly getting new stuff, and they're like not doing Stardew Valley 2. They're just like constantly adding more stuff onto it. I feel like Loop Hero is that type of game that could just like constantly be getting new stuff and
that would
just
be great.
Evolving in really interesting ways. So I have not played Valheim yet. I feel like Valheim and Loop Hero are sort of the two big games so far this year that have been like, they sort of came out and took over the internet a little bit and had like this huge spotlight on them for a while. And I mean, that happens every year for some games, and most of the time those games are not particularly like my type of game. But this one really worked for me. I don't. You've played Valheim.
A little bit, yeah.
Is that something I should play, especially if I'm not like big on survival or building games?
I don't know. I've played it a little bit, but it has not grabbed me for whatever reason. Although one time the first time I did play it, I felt a little sick and I just like wanted to stop playing it. Not like unrelated to the game. It just like was a coincidence that I didn't want to be looking at a screen at that moment. Yeah. And I played it again, and like, I mean, I get it, but for whatever reason, it is not just like if I load into like a new Minecraft world, that's something where I'm like, I can see the potential and I'll play this for a couple hours and see what I can find. But for whatever reason, I don't have that itch when I load into a Valheim world. And I don't know, maybe I need to play it more, but at the moment, it's not something that I am super jazzed about.
Yeah. I've never been one for building games. Like, we've talked about Fallout. Like, I played a bunch of Fallout 4 and a bunch of Fallout 76, and like there's building aspects of those games as well. And it's just, the whole system is just not something that I even do anything with. Like, I get why people are into it, but it's not been like the type of game that I'm into. So I don't know. I probably will not end up playing any of that game, and it'll just be this game, another one of those games that like everybody loves, but I just didn't bother with.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
All right. So what is this game that you wanted to tell me about?
I feel like we have talked about this before. Maybe not though. I used to play this a long time ago because it was free a long time ago, and it has since, it's like now a subscription where you have to pay $2 a month if you want to, which is not terrible. But you've never heard of Geoguesser?
No.
Geoguesser is a game where maybe as I describe it, you will remember it. Basically, you load into a Google Street View, and you have to sort of guess where you are on a map, and then you can, like, the closer you get, the more points you get. And I used to play it all the time, I want to say in like college. And then I came back to it recently because my brother was talking about it. And now it's subscription based, so it's kind of like a pain if you want to play it. I get it. I mean, $2 a month is not terrible. But the reason I got back into it is because there's this whole scene of guys who are super into GeoGuessr, who are like wizards at it. Specifically, this guy Geoguesser, who is this English guy that I watch. But he'll load in and he'll do these challenges where he like can't move in the Google Street View. Some of them he can't even like move the viewpoint around, and some of them it's just like you can't even like walk forward or whatever. And some of them he'll do like only 10 seconds per round, and he is so good at it. Like he'll drop into a place and he'll be like, yeah, this looks like Lithuania. Let's find right here, and then he'll do it, and he'll be like 59 yards away or something. It's fascinating to watch because they just have like such a knowledge of like what areas look like. It's very interesting, and you'll learn stuff too. Like I've been watching a bunch of his videos, and he'll be like, yeah, this type of like license plate is like a Polish license plate, or like look at this kind of building. This makes me think that it is in South America. I hope it's not. Like he hates when things drop in Brazil because Brazil is like so giant. But it's really, really interesting to watch. And so Geoguesser, I think there is maybe a free version that is not as good, but it is very fun to play with a group of people and just like share your screen and try to figure out where you are, and like don't look up like phone numbers or anything if you find phone numbers. But it's a great little thing that will teach you about the world.
That seems like it would be fun, but I also feel like I would be terrible at it.
I'll send you a video. I think you're gonna like. I think you're gonna like it.
Okay. But what I've been playing most lately is Persona 5 Strikers. I was getting a video together for this. It may be up by the time this podcast goes up, or it may come out a day or two after. But I'm trying to wrap it up because Monster Hunter Rise just came out, and I do want to play that as well. And a few days from the time this podcast goes up, Outriders will be out, and I know I'm going to be playing that. So a lot of stuff happening, but no, Persona 5 Strikers is a lot of fun. It's sort of a continuation of Persona 5, but with that action-oriented like combo style combat from like Dynasty Warriors or Hyrule Warriors, that style of combat, which I've never played before, so it was interesting to sort of go hands-on with that style of combat. Almost makes me want to go back and try Hyrule Warriors, actually.
I've heard it's very good. All of the art direction and sound direction make you feel like you're playing a Breath of the Wild game, even though you're clearly not.
Yeah, I forget who the developer is.
I don't remember, yeah.
But they are excellent at just like adapting somebody else's franchise to their style of game. Like it does look and feel exactly like you're in a Persona game, like you're in Persona 5. But they have like really I don't want to say dumbed down because that makes it sound bad, but they've like streamlined is maybe the word I'm looking for. But they like Persona 5 is sort of, there's kind of a lot of systems to it, and there's a lot happening in terms of like if you it plays out like day after day, right? It's on a calendar system where you can only do so many activities before it's like, okay, it's the end of the day and the calendar is going to move forward a day. It's sort of Stardew Valley, but instead of like it being on an actual timer, it's more like activity based. So like if you do, you have to choose, you have like maybe 2 time slots that you have available, and you have to choose, okay, I want to go into the metaverse and do some battles to like level up my characters and get stronger that way, and maybe find some items and stuff, or I want to like do the relationship building stuff and like talk to people and get to know the characters in my party, or I want to like do some sort of activity that will make my main character stronger, and some sort of like base stat that will increase. And so you have to choose those things. And I always felt like I was not making the right choices. And I was worried that I was going to get into a situation where I had not done enough like grinding to make my characters strong in battle, and I would hit this boss battle that I would not be able to beat, and it would just be like, well, I'm on rails, like I can't go back and go grind now, like what do I do? So I was always a little bit stressed out playing that game, and Persona 5 Strikers removes all of that and makes it so that you don't have to worry about, time slots or the days advancing. You can just like, you have all the time in the world to go into the metaverse and do combat and build up your characters and get stronger that way. And then you can also jump out of the metaverse and go like buy healing items and like do everything else and then go back into the metaverse again. And so you're free to do that as much as you want. And so like the stress of like the time system in Persona 5 is completely gone. So I love that. But they also sort of stripped away all of the like relationship building aspects, which is a little bit of a bummer, but you're also dealing with characters that you've supposedly, if you've played Persona 5, you already know. So this game doesn't really have any of that, which is sort of a knock against it, but not too bad because again, you already know these characters if you've played that game. So yeah, it took me a little while to adjust to the combat just because there's like so many characters on screen or so many enemies on screen, and the camera doesn't really, it's not great at making it so that you can see everyone all at once just because there's so many. And so it is a harder game than I thought it was going to be. But it is one of those games that's fun to like learn all the combos of the different characters. And yeah, I've been really impressed with it actually. So I recommend it, but I recommend if you're gonna play it, play Persona 5 first.
Which is like how many hours would you say that game
like
is?
150, it's knock it out in a week. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
If you have nothing else to do.
I wanted to touch on this briefly. Apex Legends came out for Switch. And I was like, oh, I'll download that. And then you can select to only play with other Switch users. So I'll be like good at it. So I downloaded it. You can definitely tell it's a game on Switch. Like the graphic fidelity is not great. It also bugged out for me and I couldn't get through the tutorial mission like 3 times. And I finally got through the tutorial mission and I set it to only play with people on Switch. And it just like is infinitely queuing. So I've never been able to play it.
Really?
And I don't want to play it like cross-platform because I have heard that like when you get into intense firefights, it really starts to judder.
Also, like,
so that's been a bit of a bummer.
I feel like it would be hard to shoot from a distance with the Switch version.
Hard to tell, yeah. But I every once in a while I'll load it up and be like, well, maybe if I try it now, there will be more people playing. But I have not had success yet. Another thing I've been doing is I have not downloaded these or purchased them, but I've been watching playthroughs of the Doom Eternal DLCs, the second one that just came out. And they look fun. They look way too hard for me. Like I would get frustrated playing them, but they're enjoyable and the story is very interesting. And it seemed to, I'm halfway through the second DLC right now and it seems to be wrapping up. Like there's a big bad that, maybe he gets away in the end, but it seems like I don't know if there's going to be another DLC after this. There probably is actually going to be another, and then it'll culminate in basically you being completely victorious. But I don't know what it means for the future of the Doom franchise. I don't know where they go from
really
here.
Big implications for it, huh?
The lore-wise, yeah, because the person I'm watching play it like reads all of the lore pages, and you're learning all about it, and it seems like this is the person that's been pulling all the strings from the very beginning, and they 100% are going to... I guess I don't know. Maybe they're going to die, maybe they're not going to die. But it seems like it's coming to a head with a battle with them. But,
you should send me a link to that, because I watched a guy play some of it on Twitch, and it did seem like really hard, like he was struggling with it. But is this... Maybe you don't know this, but is this like a separate chapter that you load into, or is this like part of the main story?
Yeah. When you load into Doom Eternal now, it says like continue campaign, and then below that it says DLC 1, and below that it says DLC 2. So they're completely separate, and they take place after the main game.
Yeah, I love Doom Eternal, but I don't know. I would probably watch this, but not play it.
I agree. I've also been watching some things. I watched the first episode of that new Invincible show on Amazon Prime. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not familiar with this.
It's by that Kirkman guy who did Walking Dead. This is another one of his comics. I did not love it. They dropped the first 3 episodes this Friday, and then they're gonna have like I think 5 more episodes that come out on a weekly basis. But it's a very, very dark superhero show, and I don't know that I want that at this period of my life.
Did you watch The Boys?
What?
Did you watch The Boys?
I watched the first like 2 or 3 episodes of The Boys, and that also was just like much too much for me, I feel. I get it, and I see the appeal of it, but I don't know. It's not what I'm looking for. Also, the animation in it is like really hit or miss. Like sometimes it looks great, and other times it looks like someone has just like taken a stock Photoshop image and is just like clicking and holding on a character and moving them around in that world. Like it looks rough sometimes, like they pushed it out or something. But it's not the kind of animation that I enjoy. So a mixed review from Aaron on Invincible. I probably will not continue to watch it.
I was not aware of it, so I'm fine not checking it out, I guess.
I also watched the first episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier. I have not watched the second episode yet, but I am able to determine right now that it's probably not as good as WandaVision, which was very good, I would say. But that's TBD. I'll have more to say about that as more episodes come out. But the thing that has exceeded my expectations week to week and been very good the entire time is Season 4, the final season of Attack on Titan, the finale of which is happening tomorrow as we record this. But I think that it's only the mid-season finale. It's like the finale of the first half of the final season, although I'm not sure. Things appear to be really coming to a head, but I think a lot of stuff would have to happen in this episode for it to really conclude. But it's been great. Attack on Titan is possibly one of the best animes ever made. Very, very good. Yes.
I should go back and watch that.
Very hard to not have spoilers because there are like 2 or 3 insane things that happen in it that were not spoiled for me. And I was just like watching at 2 or 3 in the morning and they happened and I was just like, oh my God. And it was like blowing my mind. So if you are able to not be spoiled by it, definitely try to go in blind, but a bunch of very cool stuff happens in that show.
You just watching it on Crunchyroll?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, I'm behind. I liked that show. I just am a little ways behind. I need to get caught up.
Where did you leave off?
I don't remember if I even made it. Like, I for sure watched the first season. I don't remember if I watched the second one or not. So I'm that far behind. I got a lot of catching up to do.
You were talking about getting Crunchyroll and downloading some of that Persona anime. I would recommend also checking out Attack on Titan because it's top notch. I have to say, like it's similar to, I think I was talking to my friend and he was like, you know, a lot of TV shows will be great and then they'll just like not follow up on their promises. Like Lost, for instance, was great for a couple seasons and then it just like became a real slog, and the finale was like, what's happening right now? What does this all mean? We don't really know. It's like a mystery box. Attack on Titan, though, has like solid payoffs for everything and is constantly intense and crazy and like very cool stuff is going on. I can't say enough good things about it.
Now that you mention it, that happens to a lot of shows that I hadn't even thought about it, that like a lot of shows just don't ever end up fulfilling their potential.
For a lot of Attack on Titan, they're trying to get to a basement that the main character's dad was like, oh yeah, you got to check out in the first episode, he was like, you know what? Let's check out this. When you get back from whatever you're doing, let's check out this basement. I'm going to tell you about some stuff. And then a bunch of stuff happens, like 3 seasons, like 2.5 or 3 seasons of stuff happens. They get to that basement, and you're like, it can't be as great as, like, this is what we've been leading up to. It's going to be kind of a letdown. And it is 100% not. It was not what I was expecting, and it's crazy.
Huh. So it's not a disappointment like Bran becoming king in Game of Thrones?
I don't know what you're saying right now.
Man, what a waste that show was. Never watched Game of Thrones.
You got it.
I own seasons that will never get watched again.
But yeah, that's all. You said you've been watching some stuff, right?
Mainly just Farscape. I already mentioned it. I've been rewatching Farscape and Red Dwarf, just because I love those shows and they're nice. I've seen them before, so I kind of know what's going on, so I can just kind of have them on in the background. And so that's why, like, playing Loop Hero or Persona 5, like, just grinding in either one of those games has been sort of my nightly ritual. I'll just put on one of those shows and just, like, grind for a while in one of those games, and it's been very fun, very relaxing, and it's been nice to revisit those shows. So why don't you hit me with your parting wisdom?
I should have prepared for this. But do you know what I did today before we recorded?
No.
Something I have been doing, like, not every weekend, but if I have free time, now that it's nice out and it's actually fun to drive around and not like a barren, frozen tundra, I like to go to Goodwill and just, like, look around, because Goodwill has crazy stuff all the time. I'm looking for specifically, like, a chest of drawers at the moment that I would turn into some sort of kitchen island. But day to day, hour by hour, Goodwills are, like, dramatically different. Like, they're always putting out new stuff. People are always donating stuff. So if you're looking for furniture for your place, this is, like, something everyone knows. But it's a good time to just, like, go to a bunch of Goodwills. I'm in the vicinity of 3 that I can get to fairly quickly. And it's a fun little weekend to just, like, drive around, you know, get some food from a drive-thru and just, like, wander into a Goodwill for maybe, like, 5 minutes just to peruse their furniture area or look at their little knickknacks. But it's great. I found a weird little shelf. I found a cow tray for putting soap on. That's great. Who knows where it came from, but I got it for $2. So yeah, go check out your local Goodwill.
Goodwill's just like a giant garage sale.
It is.
A store that is a garage sale.
Full of wonderful things. Sometimes you'll even find crazy stuff in the electronics section. I have not found that to be the case yet, but I've seen, you know, posts online of people who are like, oh yeah, here's an N64, or like here's a perfectly good widescreen monitor that someone gave away for some reason. Here's an empty PC case that is a great case, but it has nothing in it, but that's perfect if you want to start a PC build.
Yeah. You can find some real gems there, I would assume.
It's true. And that's my parting wisdom.
That's some good advice. As always, follow us on Twitter at Starside Cafe. Leave us a review, actually. I haven't mentioned this in a while, but it would help if you, on whatever app you use to listen to the show, or if you just go to iTunes, leave us a review there. That'll help. Also, share us on whatever social platform you prefer. And follow our YouTube channel. We got stuff there. Got a Persona 5 Strikers video going up this week. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.